So Fabio, we are today here at a workshop on the time-varying coefficient models for the study of monetary policy. If you would have invited one of your colleagues from the history department studying financial crisis, would you have called it differently? What different title would you have used to attract their attention?
Well, probably I would have used a different title. I would have said, how do you deal with the evolving nature of the economic process or the evolution of economic process? And basically the workshop is intended to study particular tools which are now becoming popular, to study problems of basically evolutionary economy. The fact that things may evolve over time, maybe very slowly, may take time to do things, but they are changing over time. So, for example, the fact that now monetary policy, most of the country have nominal interest rate which are hitting the zero lower bound. There's been a financial crisis. There are a lot of discussion in central banks where people say maybe we have a change here which we haven't thought about before. So we would like to have tools to be able to answer questions like what kind of policy will be optimal, what kind of forecast should we do, and this is an example of workshop trying to describe the tools.
So do I understand that these tools are used, so there are things we cannot necessarily explain with theory, but there is patterns in evidence which are then puzzles, and this is what you are trying then to study with these models?
Yes, I think it's correct. So theory at this point has tried to make a step in the direction of trying to explain this phenomena, but we are still far away. So there are a lot of people which are more empirically oriented, and some of them are here at this, which try to understand first the patterns in the data, if there is anything we can learn from the patterns in the data, and way to characterize this changing pattern in the data. So I think it's correct.
Is there any major lesson from this morning we have learned? I mean, again, talking to a non-economist.
Major lessons that we have learned, I think, there are, I think, two, I would say. One is about be careful. The methods which we describe in some of these may be giving you ideas about pattern of time variation which are not the truth. So we can do some examples in which we generate data according to some particular pattern, and then something else comes out with this method. So warning, that's the first thing. And the second thing is that you should be, from the policy point of view, you should be very careful in thinking about time variation in the structure as being, economics makes the difference between something which is transitory or permanent. So something that stays for a while or stays forever. The tools that we have available typically make this pattern changing permanently. So the question is the fall in productivity that we observe, for example, in many countries, permanent effect, or is something that eventually will make up, but we don't have the data yet to be able to say that. So that's the second thing that we have learned, that I think is a little bit, you have to be very careful to make policy implication based just on the results of some of these models.
Okay. And my last question would be whether the financial crisis, I mean, these models are studied since a long time. Did the financial crisis had an effect on the way how monetary policy is studied with these models?
Sure. I mean, it was well known that most of the time financial variables were not included in these models simply because they had very little importance. So obviously now financial variables matter. Issue about uncertainty, issue about volatility, issue about expectation about the future are now becoming crucially important. And there is a big drive, for example, now to use survey data, which wasn't in the past. So the information contained in market expectation, consumer expectation, industry expectation, these are things that are very important because they give a sense of the uncertainty, of the volatility which people expect in the market.
Okay, thanks a lot, the holder of the Pierre Werner Chair, Fabio Canova. Thanks a lot.